In sports, if you want to be the best, there are no off days.
Welcome into the No Off Days podcast. I'm Scott Smith. We got Chris Cato over here, and we have another mystery producer on this week's program, which we'll get to momentarily, and I know you're excited about that.
I'm not excited if BK is he okay? Do we know, is he?
He's okay. He's
All
okay. When he comes back, if his if his chin line looks a little different and his
more
face
hair?
is pulled back,
Yeah,
more
full head of hair. BK's down in Mexico having a hair transplant.
No, he hurt the old back, and
Ugh.
so doctor says he needs a backiotomy. So we're gonna work on that, and we hope to a speedy recovery that he'll be back soon. Over this last weekend, of course, we had the NFL draft, and we did some build-up coverage to that. And last week we talked a lot about Shadeur Sanders. Little did we know that he was going to be the biggest headline coming out of that draft. Were you shocked as everybody else about the fall? I know you watched a lot of Colorado games this last season.
I did watch a lot of Colorado. He's a very talented quarterback. How could you not be surprised by the fall? I mean, to the fifth round. I mean, I could have seen him not being drafted in the first round. I thought he'd go in the second, and then definitely the third. But, yeah, that was, 144 overall?
144. But if we can go back, I believe 2 weeks ago, I called it. I said
you said fifth round.
I said he was going to go to the Browns.
You did? Okay, yeah.
I just
a lot of people said
that.
It
was number 2. Anyway, yeah. Do you have any big thoughts on the draft? Who do you think the big winners are? Do you have big winners, big losers? Do you like any particular picks, any draft classes?
The Ravens always knock it out of the park. I thought the Browns, they got a haul of picks for trading the pick that led to Travis Hunter going. Yeah. Other than, I think getting Shadeur at 5 was great value. I think the Browns had a pretty good draft.
It's interesting because they also drafted Dylan Gabriel, Oregon quarterback, a couple rounds before that. Yeah. So it looks like they're going to have a little bit of a competition.
I think they have 5 men in their quarterback room now.
Didn't have 5. Saying? If you have 5, you don't have 1. So, yeah, I do think that it's going to be interesting. The more I've thought about it, I'm like, well, look, if you're the Browns, you're like, we need a quarterback. So let's throw them all in a pot and see which one comes out. And so the competition's probably going to bring out the best of them. I kind of like – there's a few classes that I like. I like what the Steelers did, and I feel like last year I kind of liked what the Steelers did.
Every year they draft pretty well.
Yeah, they got Derek Harmon, they got a duck, so I was happy about that in the first round, which, by the way, his story is heartbreaking. I don't know if you heard, but after he was drafted, he told his mother, who was on life support, and she passed.
Oh, no.
But she held on long enough to hear that he was drafted into the NFL, but it's just that's a heartbreaking story. But great run stuffer, and he did great things with his one season in Eugene, so I like that pick. But man, they went out and got Caleb Johnson, the running back out of Iowa, who's kind of like this bruising back. He's got good eyes, good instincts, but he can run you over too. And then they got Jack Sawyer, who I was sitting there watching. I was like, man, maybe the Bucs go get him.
Yeah.
He's the 4th round. He kind of was the star of the show in the national championship game at the end. And then they went out and got another Buckeye, Will Howard, who was floating all the way down to the 6th round. I think they got good value there. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a mature guy. He's got some decent wheels, and he did some big things at Ohio State. And where was he before that? Kansas State. Yeah.
Taking a lot of college snaps, and we've seen Bo Nix, we've seen others, a lot of college experience come in and start right away.
Exactly. Falcons, begrudgingly, I have to say, I kind of like. They had a small class, but they hit defense really hard, as well they should have. But they got Jalen Walker, linebacker out of UGA, and James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee.
I thought they took him a little early.
You thought so?
Yeah. I think they could have gotten him.
They got him. Let's see. He was like they had 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, and they took him with the second one. Yeah.
And then they got Xavier Watts, safety out of Notre Dame. Yeah. So there's some guys I like. The Bucs draft class, I'm not really sure what to make of it. The more I think about the Emeka Egbuka pick, the more I like it, because it was such a glaring hole last year when Evans and Godwin went down, and injuries are just a fact of life in the NFL, but you got to have some guys that could step up. And Jalen McMillan kind of rose up last year and really helped carry the team down the stretch. But they got a couple of intriguing guys late. David Walker, who's this edge rusher.
I like that guy.
He seems a little undersized.
It's a little fire hydrant,
But he went to Central Arkansas, so an FCS school, and this guy was just like living in opponents' backfields.
Yeah.
Like, just a game wrecker.
Yeah.
Like, he had like 30-some-odd sacks in his time there at UCA. He had like, I think it was like 70 tackles for loss, something like that. So that'll be fun to see. And then, of course, they got a duck.
They got a duck.
They got Tez Johnson, so who's also undersized. But, man, I watched this guy. He's a playmaker, and I loved him. With that, should we reveal our mystery producer?
I'm dying to know who it is.
He's actually not, if you've been watching the NODPOD, you know him well. You may not know his face, but you hear his name mentioned all the time. It's our other Chris. It is Director Chris, and he's doing double duty. So as he spins around in his chair, what do you feel about this? Is it a promotion or?
Well, no. I was walking by, and you looked out your window for anybody to help you out, and I happened to be walking by at that exact time.
I know you're doing 2 jobs now, Chris, but could you slide a little to your right and get fully in frame?
There we go.
There we go.
That's what I was asking. Okay, so this happens, when you're multitasking. It happens sometimes.
Perfect. Yeah, Chris, for those of you not familiar with the inner workings, Chris punches the buttons, keeps our cameras switching, keeps us on air.
Yeah, Chris is on the 1s and 2s, and he's contributed in the past.
Yeah,
I was on a couple of years ago. I think we had some contests that there was a buzzer contest one time.
Okay.
And I pushed the buzzer.
Right.
You were the human buzzer. You'd go every time we wanted to buzz in.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad you need more FaceTime, and
I
know you wrote it into your contract for your number 3 of the NODPOD. So we're working on that. This is the time where I ask you, hey, what's coming up on today's program?
Well, I'm going to go by what you sent me. And so today we have author Jim Murphy. He wrote the book Inner Excellence. That's the book that A.J. Brown read on the sidelines about one game.
Oh, yes.
And, I figure if A.J. Brown can read it, and he can do what he did, did the Super Bowl, all that stuff, I figure it can help me out too,
I got a copy for you right here,
my
friend.
I figure director of NODPOD here, the sky's the limit from now. From now on,
It is a mental grind, this podcast, and so this is going to take you to the next level.
I think it will.
All right.
Then we have Johnny Avello. He's well known in the sports betting world. He's the DraftKings Director of Race and Sports Operations. The Kentucky Derby is this weekend. It's a big deal. And if you like to bet on the ponies, he's a good guy to follow.
We do like to bet on the ponies,
there you
actually.
Go.
I know nothing about horse racing, but I will make a derby wager.
Well, that's what Johnny's going to do. I think he's going to get us up to speed. I'm hoping. So.
Yeah, I might throw some down. You know what I'm saying? If I can listen, I'll listen to what he has to say.
And this is the part where I ask you, what's coming up at the end of the program?
Well, speaking of the Kentucky Derby, we like to do drafts around here. The NFL draft we did. Well, we're gonna do some horse drafts.
Okay, draft horses.
Draft horses to see who might win.
Do you think they actually do, like in NASCAR, do you think they draft off other horses?
I was picturing
Does the aerodynamics of the horse in front of them cut
that.
down on the wind resistance?
Yeah, don't rub the other jockey off, I guess. But
no,
I
don't
was
want to
thinking
do that.
Draft horses like the big Clydesdales. They're known as draft horses.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Is that DRAUGHT?
It's a different kind of draft, but
Yeah, different kind of draft.
Yeah, I know a lot about that draft.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. All right, so I got to figure out some winners then.
Okay. So we're going to shoot the odds out, and then and I'll go through all the details on that. But, hey, Director Chris with a K.
That's me.
Thank you so much,
Yep.
and we will catch up with you momentarily. If you are listening and you want to watch, go to fox13news.com/NODPOD. If you're watching and you want to listen or subscribe, you can take out your phone, zap the QR code on the screen right there in the bottom right-hand corner, and it will take you to all of our shows. We invite you to subscribe. Get it in audio form each and every week. The show is released on Thursday. If it's a good week, give us a 5-star. Fox13news.com/NODPOD. Okay, speaking of draft, like one of the other headlines, and it involved Shadeur, was the just the thought of it just makes me laugh.
Why do you like this?
I don't know. I love awkwardness.
Well,
this is one of the things, like when my wife and I were dating, and that was one of the things I said, I got to tell you this about me. I love awkward situations. There's something about, I just love it. I want to see it. I want to be in it. I kind of embrace the moment. So anyway, there's these draft day prank calls that took place, and the gentleman's name, the culprit, we should call him, Jax Jax Ulrich, Ulbrich. 21-year-old son of Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich. So he gets Shadeur Sanders' cell phone number. How does he do this? How would one get that cell phone number? Well, it apparently was left on an iPad owned by his father because he had all the players that they could potentially be signing. And he scribbled it down and he took it with him
to his frat house at Ole Miss, like one does.
And then him and his buddies gather in their, looks like a dorm room, and they're kind of giggling, and they call up, and they're rolling on their little cameras, and who picks up but Shadeur, and he says, seamlessly. This guy's he just completely went into character. It was wonderful. He didn't try to disguise his voice at all.
He stumbled over the GM's name.
Yeah, Mickey Loomis.
He was like, "I'm Mickey Loomis. I'm the what am I again? The GM." That's
right. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, the Saints. Yeah, New Orleans. So he says we're about to draft you. By the way, Shadeur doesn't seem enthused about this at all. I wonder if he's thinking is this really Mickey Loomis?
I'm thinking he's thinking I don't want to go to the Saints.
Yeah, that could be part of it too. But he says that, hey, we're going to draft you. And then it's like an abrupt kind of hang up. It's going to be a little bit. Okay, click. And then they start laughing.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
So, as you would imagine with these sort of things, the NFL has launched an investigation. What? First of all, what do you need? What kind of investigation? Are we overstating things just a touch? He fessed up to it. They've apologized. They issued an apology or maybe even contacted the Sanders camp themselves and said, hey, we are sorry. We did something naughty, and we shouldn't have done that.
Right.
But the NFL's, I don't know what the investigation could potentially, that there's more victims?
Well, maybe it centers around the access that the son had to this sensitive information on his dad coach's iPad. Maybe there's
clearly.
So maybe that's part of the investigation is let's have some more security protocols in place when we're dealing with prospects or anyone's information, right? Don't leave it lying around for your family members.
I think that's the word, right? It's hey, can you not share it with your, your prankster son? Yeah, can you just maybe close the window?
Yeah, or is there a screen lock function on your iPad where if you're not looking at it for 10 seconds, it locks up?
It seems like to me the investigation should last all of 4 seconds and say, hey, can you not do that?
I think we just did it.
Can we just not do that? It's not a good look, okay? But of course there'll probably be some other ramifications. But what's your take on this whole situation? Because clearly I'm making light of it because I don't think it's a big deal. I was one that I took part in a prank caller mini in my childhood.
Do you want to share? Your best one. What was your best one?
There were some. I think it was because I watched Ferris Bueller as a young child, and that kind of shaped what the things I thought were possible.
Bad influence.
So I called my school a couple of times and acted like. Once I called and acted like my own mother. I was like, my voice is not quite deep enough to pull off Dad, so I'm gonna go with Mom, and immediately it was like, Scott, is this you? And then click, and then later in high school years, I tried the old Dad.
Your voice
thing.
had deepened.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to give bad ideas. I just think it's a thing that a lot of people do when they're young and they're immature, and 21-year-olds do 21-year-old things.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a big deal, but your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think doing a prank call is an awful thing. I just believe that this was very cruel because of the fact that Shadeur is in the national spotlight. He's having this, awful draft so far where he's fallen to the 5th round, and these kids are putting it on social media. And it was,
it was insensitive.
Yeah, it was. And yes. you did reenact some of the call, but there was a point where Shadeur was like, he bought it, and he was like, it's going to be legendary. Me going to,
Oh, it will be.
He said,
this call will be.
He said, I've been waiting on you. And so that, to me, and Shadeur is kind of, I guess, polarizing, but he's a young man who's worked really hard to get to this point. This is his big day, and it tricked him and fooled him, and it gave him hope. And so I didn't like that part of it, and also, just the fact that the pranksters are putting it out there for everyone to see this embarrassment. I thought that was not nice.
It was not classy. It was not nice. I grant you all of those things. But if you're Dad in this situation, you're Coach Ulbrich here, and And old Jax is at it again. He's up to his same old shenanigans. You know, this kid always got his hand in the cookie jar. Yeah. Like, what do you do? I mean, is he too old to spank? Can you do that? I don't know.
He's 21.
No. Yeah.
You could still bend over. No.
Put that on TikTok.
I was going through this because I thought, wow, that was my first reaction. Well, I was embarrassed for Shadeur, but I was embarrassed for the dad of this kid and thinking, man, if that was my son, like, what would that conversation sound like? And what is a punishment to a 21-year-old college student? And I would think I would probably go to what's most important to them right now. Their cell phones, their smartphones. Yeah. And I would probably say, all right, that device that you – and I'm sure this was born out of a desire, whether it's shared on Snapchat or TikTok, like social media, clicks, exposure, drives all of this crazy behavior we see with some of these trends that kids do that are dangerous or could hurt others. And so that would be my first go-to probably is like, hand me the smartphone. You are now the proud owner of this Nokia flip phone, so you can call us if you need us. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can send a basic text. But yeah, I think I would start there with the old smartphone.
Well, if he is as resourceful as I think Jax is, he's probably going to get another phone.
He'll have his dad's.
I don't know. I don't know what you do. I mean, if you penalize the dad, that's probably the only real ramification, because then it kind of hits a little bit more close to home. Like I feel like maybe the NFL, I don't know, if they do any type of fine, that would probably affect Jax in some way.
Dad's wallet, and then he can't pay your fraternity dues?
Yeah. Or it's just like, you've embarrassed the family name. You've embarrassed your dad. Mm-hmm. And how much work has he put in to get to this point, to be the defensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons? It's a prestigious job. So, I mean, there's that. I'm sure he already feels some level of embarrassment. But on behalf of all Bucs fans, I think they need to dock the Falcons a win in 2025.
Dock them a win.
I think that's probably the fairest, right?
Well, isn't Dion is in the Falcons Ring of Honor or whatever they call it? So yeah, that's actually
imagine that homecoming.
Very hurtful. Yeah.
Well, when Dion comes back to old Mercedes-Benz Stadium, we're gonna have a little talk, aren't we, son? Yeah. All right. In other big news, that is completely not sports related, but yet tangentially we're gonna go there. Did you see Bill Belichick's very interesting interview on CBS Sunday Morning this last week?
He brought the charm, as he always does. Old charming Bill.
Look, so first off, the sweatshirt. Like, that should have been the headline here. That was not the headline, despite this nasty rag that had some type of, like, knife incision from maybe a sword fight he got into back in 1975. You could see his bare chest. Yeah. Like, put a T-shirt on underneath if you're going to wear that old oil rag. Anyway, so I just think the fact that we're not talking as much about the sweatshirt underscores just the cringiness of the actual interview when the topic started to get to be around Bill's love interest. Can I say love? I don't know if they've exchanged that, but I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, his girlfriend. Yes. 49-year younger girlfriend.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there's a significant age gap there. He actually refers to Jordan Hudson, who's the 24-year-old girlfriend, as his creative muse. He describes her as in the book, and she was definitely musing in this this interview. So she kind of breaks in. The interviewer, the reporter, asks a question about how the relationship got started, and she's seen off camera, kind of like watching very intently. What's going on? And she breaks in and is like, "Hey, we're not going there. We're not going there." And then he kept kind of persisting, although he found another kind of entry to discuss it.
As journalists do, yes.
Yeah, and he's asking about the Instagram posts, because apparently now he's joined Instaface, as Bill Belichick calls it. But she has been quite active on Instagram, posting these interesting pictures of the two of them, her and Bill, and they're like doing some type of like role playing. Well, that sounds bad. Like
she's a mermaid, he's a fisherman.
He's like reeling her in, and then there's another one where he's like laying on his back and she's like on his feet
doing the airplane,
doing the airplane pose. Yeah. It's cute, whatever. I don't know, but he asks about that, and Bill, it was like he saw a ghost. It was like
Bill didn't know what he was talking about.
He was like, what did he say? He said, I'm on those social media platforms, but honestly, I don't follow them. This is your girlfriend. This is your girlfriend's post. Anyway, I'm curious. What do you make of this whole interesting dynamic? Do you have relationship advice for Bill?
I'm concerned if I'm a big North Carolina money booster. It seems like she wields a lot of influence, right? Yeah. I mean, my goodness, she's been on the sidelines at their practices, and this was elder abuse. Could we call it that? Like when there's a young person who exerts control over an older person who maybe they're.
Do you feel like she is, or is she just playing the role of a good media relations person that is the one that's going to run interference?
That's what I don't understand, is because the story of how they met has been out there.
It has.
So I don't understand why she wouldn't allow this CBS reporter to ask about that.
Yeah, well, I think being in the room, she definitely was leery of where the conversation might go. But it's a book tour. Yeah. Like, he's going to be doing media. Like, this is kind of like, other than his job at UNC, which she has been very prominent. She's been a focal point there. She's been at spring practices. Like, she is at the center of all of this stuff surrounding the coach. That's gonna come up. I think this makes it even worse. Like, you're trying to handcuff the reporter. Like,
it did make it worse.
And let Bill coach up Bill enough to say, hey, if it goes to this point, just say, you know what, I'd prefer if we just kept it about the book and didn't get, like, the fact that she interjects and interrupts the interview makes it 1,000 times worse.
Because it almost seems like he couldn't have got it under control or steered it in another direction.
But it also just makes it seem like everybody just assumes, okay, I see how the relationship is. Like, this is. Like, she's kind of coming in here. She's like controlling the thing. She's the puppet master a little bit. I don't know. I think a woman's opinion on the matter is actually warranted here. Let's bring in Rochelle. She's operating the jib cam. So don't take jib cam right now. But I got to get your take on the relationship dynamics that you see at play with Bill and Jordan. Like, any good, we want the scoop. What do you think from a woman's?
Well, when they first got together, I thought, good for them, good for her, good for him, whatever, no judgment. And then I saw the interview, and I felt concerned for somebody.
For him, you're concerned for him.
Yeah, I mean, there was just, maybe that's just the state of the relationship, but you see he's talking, and then the camera pans over to her, and basically what you guys were talking about, like, oh, we're not going to talk about that. There was a vibe. It was.
So would you have said, Bill, if you are in harm, blink twice? So that's what it is?
Possibly. Okay. Again, no judgment. I don't know how they do the relationship, but like at first glance, without knowing anything, you're like, oh, like, you okay?
Yeah.
There you go. All right. So that didn't come from us. That's how she honestly sees
Rochelle.
it. I think a lot of people. Thank you, Rochelle.
Thanks, Rochelle. I didn't know we were doing that. That was fun.
Okay. There you go. So that was fun. Coming up on the other side, maybe what Bill needs is to work on his mental toughness.
Well, he was promoting a book, but maybe he should have been promoting another book.
I think he's found some inner excellence. That's what I think Bill has. Yeah, he could have written a book on that. But we are going to bring in the author of this book that it shot up the charts.
The bestsellers
this last January during the NFL playoffs, because A.J. Brown, receiver for the Eagles, was reading this on the sideline. So it must be good. We're going to talk to the author of this book on the other side. Chris just doing some light reading during the commercial break, much like A.J. Brown. Good book here. This book is Inner Excellence. Train your mind for extraordinary performance and the best possible life. The author is Jim Murphy. This book was released initially like a while back, years ago. And it suddenly, overnight, shot up the bestsellers list back in January after it was spotted on the sideline being read during a playoff game between the Eagles and the Packers by A.J. Brown, receiver for the Eagles. And suddenly, it's like in the limelight. It goes from, it was ranked 552,709th on the Amazon bestsellers list to number one, just like that.
Wow.
So what do you say we talk to the guy that wrote this book right now? Jim Murphy, author of Inner Excellence, is with us. And Jim, I'm sure just about every author on the planet saw the notoriety that Inner Excellence received and thought, I got to get my book into the hands of some NFL players for some in-game reading. It seems so out of place on the sideline. So how surreal was it to see your book getting so much exposure?
Yeah, it was really crazy. I mean, all the things, that little miracles that lined up that week and continue to line up. It's just amazing that God would choose me to be the messenger for this message.
Yeah, it was released, what, 5 years prior? Is that correct?
Yeah, actually the first release was 2009 with McGraw-Hill. It wasn't selling that much, and eventually I got the rights to it around 2018, and then I republished in 2020, and then it was doing okay. I mean, I wrote it to get clients, and so that was great. But as far as being a bestseller, nothing really happened until that week of January 12th.
So I would imagine around, the release of a book that your strongest marketing push is probably at the release, right? Maybe I'm wrong on that, but had you been kind of resigned to whatever level of success that it had prior to this unexpected media firestorm?
Oh yeah, one thing that's kind of interesting is so I just did an Inner Excellence retreat in Tijuana, Mexico. Just finished yesterday, actually, or Monday. And with that retreat, so we built a house for a family in Mexico and did an Inner Excellence retreat combined. And part of the Inner Excellence retreat is we always clarify our life purpose. And one of the things that we do is I share with them how to put these reminders on their phone, these affirmations. And so I was telling them about how I had an affirmation on my phone that would come up for years. I'm a New York Times bestselling author. And just a little reminder, no sound, just pop up on my phone. And eventually I got rid of it. I mean, it'd been 15 years. And so for that book anyway. And so I took it down, and then it happened.
And at that point, everybody's curiosity is piqued. So wanting to know, hey, what's in it? What's it about? And why in a moment like a playoff game, while the, I guess, proverbial bullets are firing, is a guy calmly reading it on the sideline? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So what AJ told me was, he read it because he really wants to be centered and focused. And Inner Excellence is about self-mastery. And so when clients come to me, so I'm a mental skills coach, performance coach, get paid to help pro athletes perform better. So obviously they come to me when they're underperforming. And so often they're so obsessed, like I was my whole life, and like most people, obsessed with results and circumstances. I just got to get better results and better circumstances. But as you know, today in our world, in America today, there's so much out of our control, and it can feel very chaotic and stressful and anxiety inducing. Like, what am I going to do? And so with Inner Excellence, we focus on developing your inner world, your inner strength, and what you can control. And because what you focus on, you're going to move towards. And so it's really easy to focus on what you can't control and things that you're afraid of. So AJ Brown, like amazingly, one of the greatest receivers in the NFL, he had a fear. He was called a chicken when he was younger, and just afraid. And so he's, obviously he's done so well. And I think one of the things that he resonated with Inner Excellence is having that clear mind and unburdened heart. Because when you're going over the middle and that guy's trying to take off your head, it can be really, really scary. And so he's got to go in there with that clear mind. And he said that's kind of what it helped him. Reading that over and over, it helped him do that.
I would imagine a lot of other athletes have reached out.
Yeah. There's been a lot more attention now since AJ kind of brought it to light, for sure.
So sports psychology obviously has become a really big part of athletics, professional, college, and even lower than that. But we all know that athletes train their body. What percentage of success in athletics do you think is physical versus the side that you are kind of focused on, the mental aspect of it?
I think the difference between like if we look at most of my clients over the last decade or two have been PGA Tour players, pro golfers, and I think all of them, their physical skills is really what got them there. Their ability to train hard and be persistent and work really hard and be able to hit the ball well. The difference between them is largely mental. But here's how you can think about it. If you take Tiger Woods in his prime and you gave him an average golfer's mental game, he's still on the PGA Tour. If you gave him Tiger Woods' mental game and an average golfer's physical game, he's not on the PGA Tour. And so the physical game is really crucial. but they are closely intertwined, super close. Like we're organically connected to our heart and mind. And inner excellence, you mentioned sports psychology, which is amazing, which obviously I use. But inner excellence is a little deeper. We go to the heart. The belief with inner excellence that's different than psychology, sports psychology anyway, is that your heart is the key to your life, your spirit, your will, the deepest part of you, that where your greatest hopes and greatest fears are. We need to get to that if you want to have the most peace and confidence under the most pressure.
So your personal background, you played baseball, you were in the Cubs farm system. Baseball in particular, it kind of, in my opinion, seems like it requires more mental resilience because of the frequency of failure. Are there certain sports that are more prone or vulnerable to mental stresses than others?
Yeah, I think the more time you have between plays, the more potential you can get in your own way. Like basketball, it's a game of mistakes, right? You steal the ball from them, they steal it back from you, and then you make up for it. You take a shot and make it from 3 points, and now you're back. You don't even think about it. But in golf, you hit the ball out of bounds once. Now you're thinking about it. You got 5 minutes to think about it for your next shot. And so, golf is obviously really, really mental. And so, it's really tough. And then you have a bad week. You got another week to wait, and so it can be really stressful.
So speaking of golf, let's use a recent example. So Rory at the Masters, right? So has all the physical talents, has had it since he was very young, accomplished, amazing things, right? But he's also known for these implosions on the course, particularly at Augusta. And it seems like in his final round at this year's Masters, you could kind of see that inner battle kind of taking place. Like many moments where people are like, okay, this is where it goes in the tank. But he fought through that. Do you see that, and do you kind of envision or able to maybe slip inside the guy's mind and say, I think this is what is going on?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think we could all see that internal battle that he was having, real struggle. I mean, he wanted that Masters, that fourth major, for so long, and he was like gripping onto it so tightly, and that made it hard for him to get it. And so what we want to do with inner excellence is say, look, there's only so much I can control, and I don't even know what's good for me. I have my goals and dreams, but is that the best thing for me? Like, I mean, just look back on your life. Is everything you've ever wanted, has that always been the best thing for you? It's obviously not. And so we don't know what's best for us, but we do know that we want to have more inner peace and inner strength. And we do know that for sure that's going to help you be good at everything that you do. And so that's what we focus on with inner excellence, is developing our true self, our heart, and saying, look, I'm going to gain inner strength, and every day I want to learn and grow. And I don't know if I'm Rory, we don't know if the best thing for you is to win the Masters this time or not. But we do know that you want to have amazing experiences and deep, enriching relationships where you're learning and growing. And you can do that today on Sunday. You get to do that for sure. And so let's go out there and fully experience all the different feelings, and don't be afraid of the feelings, because we want to ask yourself, am I willing to have any feeling today, Rory? Am I willing to face my fears? Am I willing to be comfortable being uncomfortable, even if it's all day long? Because if you're not, now it's really stressful.
Do you work with Rory in particular, or have you?
I have not. Great athlete, great person.
It sounds like the success of this book has kind of led to some exciting opportunities kind of beyond the pages of the book.
Yeah, it's been incredible, really, really surreal. And the first week I was really actually surprised that everyone wanted to talk about me, the author, but really I'm just the messenger. The message is what's the big deal that AJ is reading. That selfless is fearless. And then when you pursue a purpose beyond yourself and you focus on developing your inner world, then anything is possible.
So I guess the big question at this point is, will you be receiving a Super Bowl ring?
It's so, the Eagles fans are so amazing. They're so passionate. And I'm so grateful to be a part of this city. And I'm actually going to be going to Philadelphia tomorrow to do a book signing at Barnes & Noble. But I'm also going to be working with Inner City Youth in Kensington with Shane Claiborne. So excited about that. Like I said, I'm just a messenger. I'm really insignificant as far as everything else goes.
Well, if you want to catch the message, you can find it on Amazon or wherever you get your books. Inner Excellence, Train Your Mind for Extraordinary Performance and the Best Possible Life. He is Jim Murphy. Jim, thanks for carving out some time with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, coming up on the No Off Days podcast, we are going from author to bookmaker. We've got Johnny Avello from DraftKings. He's going to coach us up on the Kentucky Derby, the 151st running of it coming up this weekend. So get ready to take some notes. The NODPOD is back.
We'll pick some ponies.
Welcome back to the NODPOD. This Saturday is the Run for the Roses, Chris, the Kentucky Derby, and we have our Derby draft coming up in the next block. I figured it was only appropriate that we probably need to get coached up first, right?
I definitely need coaching.
Okay,
yeah.
So that's what this is for. We'll give someone that knows the lowdown on these horses be a part of this program. Now, his name is Johnny Avello. He's the DraftKings Director of Race and Sports Operations, and he is our guest right now on the NODPOD.
So you have nearly 4 decades of experience in horse racing, but I want to start first with what specifically about the Kentucky Derby that you love most.
Personally, what I like about the Kentucky Derby is the payoffs. There's such a big field that your payoffs tend to be bigger than you'll find at most tracks, and you get true value on your horses. What I mean by that is when you go pick a race, a daily race during the week, any given week, there's always going to be one favorite, and it's going to be bet on pretty heavily. Not that it wins, but it goes off 6-5 or 7-5. And then there's only another maybe 5-6 horses in the race, and you don't have a lot of opportunities to put those horses together to get a nice payoff for a exacta or a trifecta or a superfecta. That is not what the Derby produces. The Derby produces big payoffs. There's been trifectas, superfectas that have paid 6 figures many times, trifectas in the large 5 figures. So there's good value in this race, and that's why it's America's favorite race to bet.
Well, you're obviously a well-established industry expert, and we on the podcast, we know very little. So we are very, very much novices when it comes to this, and I dare say that our audience is probably in the same boat. So if you could do us a favor and just kind of lay out the field this weekend and who you like.
Yeah, there's horses that like to go to the front, and then there's horses that like to come from behind. And so there's probably 5 horses. Citizen Bull, the 1, and the 2, Nikos, they're both horses that like to go to the front, and those 1 and 2 positions are not a desirable position to have because they have to use a lot of gas to get to the front, which means they probably don't have a lot of gas left in the tank at the end. So 1 and 2 are tough. And then you get down to one of the horses that will go to the leads, number 4. That is a Bob Baffert horse, Rodriguez. He's very capable of winning this race. He can get if he can get to the front and not get a lot of challengers early, but his last race was his best ever, and if he can continue to run it like that, he'd have a good shot here. Some other horses, there's the favorite, Journalism. He's out of the 8, a perfect post, has absolutely done nothing wrong, but just improved. He's got great numbers. He's certainly a contender. And then there's some other horses. He's going to be the favorite, though. He's going to be 3-1. So there's some other horses I think that offer value. There's Sovereignty out of the 18. You might get 5-1 on him. There's also Chunk of Gold out of the 19. He's going to be 20-30-1. He's maybe a horse you use in the mix. There's also a horse named Grande who doesn't have a lot of starts, but has shown that he is not only a contender in this race, but a contender in races to come in the future. Whether he's a little green or not, we'll find out. And then I think there's some other horses that you could use in your trifectas and superfectas. East Avenue's 1, Sandman out of the 17, East Avenue's out of the 12, and then Tistastic, another horse out of the 14. So there's many horses to make an argument for, and you can't use them all. So you try to use them in a way where you try to get the best value for your buck.
Not specific to the Kentucky Derby, but what generally are some keys that you look for in some of these horses? Are there certain things that over the years you've learned, hey, this is a good tell?
Well, I look for horses that, remember, these are 3-year-olds, and so there's going to be a lot of growth in these horses in the future. So they continue to get better. They've been racing as 2-year-olds, most of them, and they are improving. And to get to this point, obviously, they're showing some quality races to be able to run in the Kentucky Derby. Now, what I look for is I look for growth. And when I say growth, I don't mean in size. I mean in the way they're running, and their running style is going to be better than it was over the last race. And there's a few horses in here, like I think of Burnham Square. He's a horse that has continued to prove each and every race. He also can, if he can continue to prove in this race, you get him at a pretty nice price. He's early morning line is like 12-1. So I look for horses that are on the improve. And that could be all of them, because they're 3-year-olds and they're babies. They can, there's still a lot of growth in all of them.
In recent years, it seems that some of the horses that end up winning the Derby have been a little bit on the longer side of the odds. Doesn't really compare, though, to Rich Strike back in 2022, 80-1 odds. Take me back to 2022. How did you kind of process that upset?
Rich Strike, I did not like in the race at all, and he absolutely killed all my wagers because I had everything else besides Rich Strike in the right position. So that would have been a really nice payoff day for me, but I didn't see Rich Strike coming. And I said after that race that Rich Strike would probably never win another race, and he never did. So that was a day where Rich Strike had his day. I remember the ride. He was maneuvering in and out of the track. He was like a NASCAR out there, and the jockey gave him a great ride, and that happens. That's horse racing. I mean, there's times when the horses that we do all this work, we try to figure out who we think is going to win, and there's horses that we neglect, and sometimes they end up popping up, winning, and paying a big mutual. And that's, for the people out there that had them, great for you, and it was a great payoff, and they'll never forget it.
Well, Johnny, I'm a sports guy, but obviously horse racing is not my area of expertise. So I usually just lean on, if people ask me for any advice, I usually lean on an old Seinfeld line that, his mother was a mutter and he loves the slop. Do you hear that? Do you ever hear that line?
Yeah, and there's something to be said for that, because if it rains at Churchill Downs on Friday or Saturday, then that expression you just mentioned comes into play. There are horses that run better on the sloppy track, which means it rained and the track's totally wet. And when that happens, it's just, the gloves are off. It's wide open for anybody.
All right, so I understand that DraftKings has a nice little promotion, a chance to win $1 million. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, it's called King of the Track. It takes place on your first bet. A lot of people like to make a lot of bets during the Derby, win bets, place bets, trifectas, everything else, but it's on your first $5 bet. And you have to opt in, and whatever horse you select with that first $5 bet, if that horse wins the Derby, you participate in $1 million cash giveaway, and you'll split that with everyone else that has that horse. First time we've ever done it. It's a real exciting promotion. And we're doing a lot of other promotions also for the weekend, but this is the big one, first timer, and a chance to scoop up quite a bit of money.
Good stuff. He is the DraftKings Director of Race and Sport Operations, Johnny Avello. Thank you so much for you, Johnny.
Hey, Scott, good talking to you. Have a good weekend.
Okay, are you ready to put that info to use?
Yes, let's go.
All right.
Secretariat.
Our Derby draft is coming up next. I'll find the next Rich Strike. And they're off. Welcome back to the NODPOD as we get you ready for the Kentucky Derby this weekend. The Run for the Roses, always great. It seems like, as mentioned with Johnny, like long shots are kind of winning here in recent years. Of course, Rich Strike was one of those. But now it's our job to try to pick them. We got to pick them. This is what's on the line for the winner.
We should have established a prize like we usually do. Usually it's food related.
Okay, something out of the break room?
Well, let's see. Well, last year I think we went with because Kentucky Derby
it was a bottle of bourbon.
Louisville, right, bottle of bourbon.
That never happened, though.
It did.
A bottle of bourbon was given?
Yeah, I brought one back from Louisville from my trip, my bourbon tasting tour. and presented it to
you. I don't remember getting it.
To whoever won. Who won?
I don't remember. All right, we're gonna have to go back. Episode 87.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's bring in Chris with a K, and Chris is going to be taking part in this Derby draft.
Am I straightened up? Like, am I centered?
You look good.
You look great.
All right. Are you okay with
maybe a touch of makeup?
Yeah.
Makeup. That's you guys, not me.
Okay. All right.
Are you okay with making bourbon the prize?
Sure.
That's a pricey.
Well, it could be
a pricey get,
depending on what you get.
All right. Well, you ain't buying Rebel Yell. Come on now. All right. Are you in on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we'll do that.
See, you guys can pitch in. It'll make my bottle cheaper for both of you.
All right. So here we go. During the break, we did a random number draw, and it looks like Chris Cato has the first pick, followed by Chris Griffin, and then I will round it out number 3, and it's a snake draft, so then we'll reverse the order for the second round. Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look at this horsey field. We've got 20 beautifully bred thoroughbreds.
2-year-olds, or are they 3-year-olds? 3-year-olds.
I'm not sure which is,
one of those.
The 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
All right. You're on the clock, my friend.
I will waste no time here because obviously, well, this is like taking Scotty Scheffler. These are the shortest odds on the board. This is the favorite right now as we tape this. And the name of the horse is something that I've been accused of doing in my career. We're going with Journalism, the winner of the Santa Anita Derby. Give me Journalism.
3-1 odds. Journalism is off the board. Chris, you are on the clock.
Okay, let's see. I was actually looking at Journalism, actually. You know what? Let's go 5-1. Why not? I consider myself a sovereign citizen, so let's go with sovereignty.
You don't know? You don't follow our laws?
Sometimes.
Only the laws of the director's booth.
That's right.
Are you carrying a weapon with you right now? All right, sovereignty off the board, 5-1.
It's a little Enter Sandman.
Is that Enter Sandman?
Oh.
Yeah. I'm going to go Sandman. He's our 6-1, and we'll go with him to round out the first round. All right, we're stepping into round 2, and I am back on the clock as I look at this beautiful field. I'm going to have to. It was one that Johnny mentioned. I believe he did. I'm going to go with Rodriguez. Let's go 12-1 Rodriguez.
A Bob Baffert horse. Always wise to take a Baffert horse. This is his return to the Derby after being suspended for the last 4 Derbies.
Indeed. He's ready to strike some vengeance.
Yeah.
Okay. Chris Griffin, you are on the clock.
Griffin.
Okay, let's see. I'll take, Burnham Square. Why not?
Oh, dang it, Chris.
Sorry.
The other Chris.
Burnham Square. Burnham Square in the eyes.
They will. I like that horse, Chris. That, I think one of Johnny's pieces of advice was to look for a horse that's on the upward swing in its career.
And he's coming in hot.
And that's Burnham Square. Dang. Well, I've got to revamp things here.
Okay.
Okay.
So we are on to the second round. Chris Cato on the clock.
Well, with my Burnham Square off the board, I'll take your lead, Scott, and go with a Bob Baffert horse in this one. With let's go. His other one is a 2-year-old champion, Citizen Bull, currently 20-1 odds, but Baffert running in that first position too, out of the first post. I don't like that, but I'm going with it anyway. Give me Citizen Bull.
Okay, Citizen Bull. You are back on the clock for round number 3.
Okay,
which concludes our non-dark horse picks, but. Our dark horse, by the way, is our final round. Has to be 30-1 odds on the horse.
Yeah, okay, let me go. You took Sandman. I was going to fade Sandman anyway. Not a lot of faith in that guy. Just pick one and just pick one. Well,
okay.
Even though it's a long shot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really all we have left here.
Well, you got a handful of 20-1 odds.
Since we've had 2 people on this podcast talking about books, I'm going to go with Publisher at 20-1.
Okay.
Give me the Publisher.
Publisher it is. You got a couple professions on your list. Publisher, journalism.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of those on today's show, in fact. All right, Chris Griffin, this is your final pick of the normal round.
Okay, let's go with... Well, I know what I'm doing. Okay, I know I'm doing with a dark horse, but I can't do it here. I will take...
Well, you can pick whatever you want.
Right. But
you could take 2 dark horses.
Just don't pick something that's already been picked.
Right.
Or,
I like this name. Tis-tastic.
Tiz-tastic.
Tiz-tastic. I wonder where that name came from.
I think there was a horse named Tiz that ran in a derby a couple of years ago. I wonder if this is a sire, an offspring of Tiz.
I'm not sure how, now it gets to me, and I'm not sure how this one slipped through the cracks here, but I'm going to jump on it. We're going to go with Luxor Cafe, 15-1. Luxor Cafe. And then and now we're into our dark horse round, which means that it has to be a 30-1 long shot. And I am on the clock. Let me go with this one. It just jumped out at me. I feel like we got to go with it. We're going with Flying Mohawk. 30-1. Flying Mohawk.
That was your wrestling name, wasn't it?
It was, indeed. Yeah. My finishing move was I would jump off the top turnbuckle. I would scream like an eagle.
Yeah.
And then I would actually... I'd always fall flat on my face and not actually make contact with the person. That was my thing,
so
though.
It was
like,
a finishing move
yeah,
for you.
like he's out, but then I'm always going to miss, you know?
It finished him every time,
Yeah.
the Flying Mohawk.
Yeah. All right, Chris Griffin, your final pick, dark horse round.
I like Render Judgment.
All right.
Because that's, I'm from Dade City, Pasco County, and when they see me coming, they're like, that guy's going to render judgment someday.
Yeah.
Here comes the judge.
Because here he is. He thinks he's a sovereign citizen.
That's right. Exactly.
Not following laws, but
he
creating
does
his
have
own.
Tiz-tastic, which kind of takes. It's like like makes you seem nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's friendly.
I'm a benevolent sovereign citizen.
Okay.
All righty. So with
Your
that,
final
I'll
pick.
take
Final
my
pick of the
dark
Derby
horse.
draft.
Thank you guys for not taking this. Love the name, admire Daytona, even though I do think Daytona is one of the dirtiest cities in Florida. But admire Daytona. Here's the reason I'm picking it, though. The trainer is Yukihiro Kato.
Yes.
Kato.
Is that your uncle?
It's one of my, it's from the Japanese line of Katos. So there we go. Uncle Yukihiro will not let me down. Admire Daytona at 30-1 odds.
Okay, I love it. There you go. That's the field. It's set, and there's still a handful of horses that we did not pick. I'm surprised Grande is still out there. Grande is another one of those that we probably should have jumped on. Anyway, should be fun. That'll get going Saturday afternoon. And if you're watching the Sunday night show, then you're saying, well, why are you doing a Derby draft after the Kentucky Derby? Well, maybe you should subscribe to the podcast, which is released on Thursdays each and every week. Hey, much thanks to Chris Griffin, Chris with a K.
Admirable job, Chris.
Doing double duty. That's what you get for walking past me in the hallway. I'm gonna always ask you to do something.
It was great timing, and that's something I have not been accused of, is having great timing.
No, well, today you were fine.
Yes.
There was no problem. But you're a trooper, and we appreciate you.
Yeah,
Much thanks to our
anytime.
guests as well, Johnny Avello, for giving us the scoop on all these horses, as well as Jim Murphy. Go out and get his book, Inner Excellence, available where all books are. And we wish BK prayers,
BK.
speedy recovery. Get back here, because I can't bear another episode with Chris Griffin. No, just kidding. No, we miss you, buddy. We hope you're doing well. Until the next time we are on, there are no off days.
BK picked Grande. He would have gone Grande.
I think so. Vente, maybe.
Yeah.